Okay, first off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, everyone here for this opportunity to talk about this topic. And today we will be finishing up this topic. Okay, so we're on to another section here. But actually, before I get into the section, I wanted to talk about something. It kind of came about through serendipity, actually, which is, kind of lucky chance, I guess, that had that was beneficial. Okay, so here, you can see this, right? Yeah, it looks like it just looks like a grid. Okay, so, but anyways, so what is this? This is, I came across this, it's actually an optical illusion. Okay, so but basically, so what it is if you stare in the center of it, stare at the center. Okay, you look at the center. It's like roughly around here. Okay, you just stare at that point, and I don't know. This may not work too well on a small screen like a phone, but you can try. You might have to get up close to it, but because it's actually, this optical illusion relates to our peripheral vision. Okay, so but if you stare at the center, and you will notice something after a few seconds, you'll notice something. Okay, so I mean this it's called the healing grid. It was created by this I think it's a researcher, Ryota Kanai. Okay, so basically, he's saying that what we're focusing on kind of affects our peripheral vision. Okay, but that's the scientific basis for this illusion. But so basically, what you can, I don't know if you can actually see it, but when you do stare at that the center of this grid, well, first of all, you notice that the two sides of the grid is kind of broken, has like broken lines and stuff. So, but the center is it's a perfect grid. And so what happens when you stare at the center for a few seconds, you will notice that, that your peripheral vision then starts filling out with the good, perfect grid. So that those broken lines kind of, quote unquote, kind of heal themselves. Okay. Now, okay, so that I don't know. I hope yeah, you should be able to see this. Like I said, on a computer you should be able to see it. On your phone you may not be able to see it as well. But okay, so you might be thinking, why am I showing this? Okay, so this actually has something to do with what we talked about last week in last week's class. So again, this kind of is, I don't know if you can make the connection, but the title of this slide kind of gives a hint. You look for the good. Okay, so last week we were talking about, our holy teacher, was talking about not looking for bad stuff in the people, not looking for people's faults, right? So we look at the good stuff. We look for the good in others, right? That's one of Holy Teacher's things that he says, to look for the good in others. Okay, so so that's what this that's why I made this connection to this optical illusion. To say, yeah, if we just focus on the good, which is like the center part of this grid, which is it's perfect lines there, then the whole thing fills out to be good. Okay, so everything turns out to be good, right? So therefore, and then you can say, the other way around too. If you look for the bad stuff, then everything's going to turn out bad. Okay, everything's going to be bad. All right. So, but basically, we should look for the good, right? Good things in others. And so there's you can say there's like a saying, right? if the mind is true, then, or the heart and mind is true, then everything is true. Okay, so it all depends on what it is, what's in our heart and mind. Okay, that's really the key. All right, and so but basically, so what we should do is focus on the good, and then everything will naturally be good. Okay, if we can tolerate, we can forgive, then everything will also be good because, well, partly is we can resolve conflicts or not get into conflicts, etc. So that's why. So this is kind of related to what we talked about previous week. Okay, so all right. So anyways, I thought that was kind of that was. So who said we can't have fun, right? Okay. So all right. Let's get back to the next section. Okay. So Holy Teacher. Now in this section. As you can see in the title there, it says, misfortune is wholly the result of the I, or ego, the self. Right? Or so this is really getting to the point, the main point, or of all of our suffering, our misfortunes comes from this idea of self, okay, or I. Okay, so so the greatest taboo in cultivation is not to listen to the advice of others. I mean, this is assuming, of course, good advice. Okay, I mean, if we're getting bad advice, we can choose to ignore that. Okay, we shouldn't just blindly follow bad advice. Okay, so we have to kind of know, differentiate good and bad. Okay, so what's good and what isn't. All right, so. And so if we are getting advice, which is good advice, then we should definitely accept it. We should definitely accept it and then also act upon it. Okay, it's not easy. Okay, but again, it's not easy because of this this ego, right? So, we say that, okay, back to Holy Teacher is saying here, we say that a person is sincere if they listen to and obey us. Right, but we cannot accept it when a person gives us suggestions or if they are stricter with us. Right, so it's interesting that we expect other people to listen to us or to follow us, obey us, right? But then when it's turned around, it's not as easy to accept. Okay, when the tables are turned. And so that's an indication that, I mean, there's a double standard here, which another way of saying it is there's a paradox or this becomes a hypocritical thing. Okay, so and we can't have that, right, in cultivation. Now, honest advice that is unpleasant to hear is beneficial, right, to our conduct. That we can accept and act upon, right? So that's I guess there's a saying there in Chinese, and then the second half of that saying is that like bitter medicine, we no one likes to take bitter medicine, but the bitter medicine is what's beneficial for us, to heal, to cure whatever illness that we may have. So it's the same thing, Obviously, honest advice, good things. May not sound good. I mean, it's because it kind of goes against what we are comfortable with or used to, or it goes against our preconceptions, our biases, our prejudices, all these things, right? Even though we are maybe in the wrong, or there's something that we have a fault that we need to correct, but we don't realize it. Okay. Okay. So. So when others give us advice, then we must bravely accept it to the point of being happy regardless of what I hear and not repeating the mistakes and not getting angry at others. Okay, so that's again, this is a skill, I guess you can say, that we have to develop and we have to practice because it doesn't come naturally or easily for probably most people, right? That we have to work on this, and this is everyone everyone has to work on this. Okay, so this is not easy. But this is, again, that's anytime because it's not easy. It's because of our ego, right? We're still attached to our ego, this sense of I, self. Okay. Now, Holy Teacher sees that we are not in a good mood, as if nobody is good to us. Okay, so we are easy to get angry, and our mood is unstable. Right? It is not easy for us to tolerate and forgive others. Right? And we have no way to cultivate our character and foster our virtues. Therefore, a cultivator must learn self-control to restrain our heart and mind, or thoughts and emotions. Right? Do not let the demon take control. Okay. Use our Buddha heart and mind and the Buddha nature to guide us. In this way, we can follow the heart and will of heaven. Right? To be fair and reasonable is Tao. Well, being reasonable, that means basically to be in accord with the principles, okay, the true principles of the Tao, okay. So yeah, we have to, again, we have to know how to tolerate and forgive. We have to have this some amount of self-control, okay. Don't let our emotions, those things get in the way. Our ignorance, prejudices, preconceptions, all these things. Okay, so we have to use our wisdom. We have to get rid of these other things to let our wisdom be in charge. Okay, or to be guided by our wisdom. Right. Okay. So. Yeah, okay. Let's go on to the next. Okay, so so do we know how long Holy Teacher has been in the Tao? Yeah, Holy Teacher does not even know, right? So how can we know? Then what kind of person is Holy Teacher? Okay. And the class members, they responded, is natural and unrestrained. Okay. So Holy Teacher considers himself to be natural and unrestrained. But what about us? Okay. We think we are always right or infallible, right? Sometimes when our brother in cultivation, okay, he's referring to the chief examiner of the three realms, okay, who's generally he's always the one kind of overseeing the classes, any kind of class that we have. Okay. Well, so when he scolds us, right, we think, oh, I didn't violate any temple rules and regulations, and I wasn't talking. Why should I be scolded? Okay. How is it that I am wrong? Holy Teacher says, silly disciples, right? If you are waiting for faulty actions or words to be accused, then it is already too late, right? We are only discovering the result, but where is the cause? It is all in our mind, our thoughts and intentions. What is the source of the mind? It is in the subtle place called the subconscious. Okay, so yeah, a lot of things they come out from our subconscious because it's almost like a habit, something that, like these preconceived ideas or prejudices and things like that. They're kind of like so ingrained in our mind. We don't really necessarily think of them consciously. They come out of our subconscious. Okay. So here, so Holy Teacher is basically saying, yeah, I mean, if we wait until something happens and then, then it's pointed out to us, oh, yeah, you did this thing wrong. I mean, obviously, we already made the mistake or we already committed a fault or something. What Holy Teacher is saying is that we have to kind of, do the prevention, right? Accepting especially what, like a Buddha or is telling us, giving us advice, they're I mean, it's either we're already doing it, or it's in our mind, heart mind, and they're telling us that, yeah, this is, the way to go about, getting rid of that. Okay, before it becomes, what's in our mind turns into actions. Okay, so, or words. Okay, so yeah, so we shouldn't be too, shouldn't be upset about, getting this kind of quote unquote advice. All right. Okay, so today our predecessor is no longer with us, and their spirit is gone with them. So who will we follow? Right? It's always a question of, we generally we have a leader, right? Someone we follow. But so are the predecessors, or the ones who are more senior, right? Are spiritual models or examples? We don't think so, right? So the predecessors we were talking about there is our holy teacher is referring to is like the ones who with having that title, predecessor. Okay, so and so that's like basically the previous generation. Okay, they're in the previous generation. Now now we're talking about the predecessors, like the ones who are now the most senior. Okay, currently. So saying, well, are they a good example? And Holy Teacher saying, no, we don't think so, because what we want is somebody of great virtue, right? So if you compare the predecessors, with even the more senior people today, senior cultivators today, there's still it's quite a difference, actually. I mean, in terms of like virtue, you can say, from at least from our point of view, when we see that there's a difference. I mean, it's almost, can't really compare that, the real predecessors, they really they were like living Buddhas, living Bodhisattvas. I mean, the way they cultivated, they have such great virtue. And but today, we're kind of left with, so there aren't that many people like that today. Okay, so even the senior cultivators are not that, do not have such great virtue anymore. Okay, so anyways, it's kind of, you can say the quality is kind of coming down. Okay, as we as we get further along. All right, so okay, so today Holy Teacher asks us, right, where do we put our spirit? And people responded, on ourselves. Okay, so every man for himself. Right, we are not even qualified. Every man for himself. Right, the devil takes the stragglers. Okay, I mean that's a saying. Okay, that's an idiom. Basically, it's very selfish. Okay, so it's like I guess that joke, right? We, if two guys they're running away from this bear. Right, this bear is charging them, and all you have to do, you don't have to outrun the bear. You just have to outrun the other guy. So, but that, it's kind of selfish thinking. Okay, so let's see here. Where are we? Okay, so right. So we are, so Holy Teacher says we are so selfish, right? How can we be temple hosts and lecturers, right? If we're that selfish, okay. So we are not even qualified to bear this responsibility, right? We affirmed our vows before, but we have fallen and lost our way. An ordinary person is lost in fame, fortune, money, and power. But what do we get lost in, right? As cultivators, we are lost in obsessiveness or stubbornness, right? Cultivators lose their way in obstinately or stubbornly persisting in going about things the wrong way. Basically, refusing to see one's sense, or going about blindly. Okay, so whereas sentient beings are lost in, fascination or ignorance or those type of things, but either way, they are lost, right? So we're actually, Holy Teachers make the point that there's not much difference between, even though we're cultivators, but we're still also stubborn in our own way. Different in different ways than ordinary people, but we're still stubborn. Okay. So the only difference is that we're lost in something different. What are we lost in? Okay, so we are obsessed with our own thoughts and views. So this is called stubbornness. Okay, so yeah, I mean this is the whole ego bit. Okay, the whole thing about the ego. So we are all very obsessed with our own views, with our own thoughts, with our everything about me. Okay, and that is so. Holy Teacher is pointing that out, saying that this is no different than other people, ordinary people, being stubborn about other stuff. Okay, it's just we're still stubborn. Okay, and so this is kind of at the root of things, the problem really for us as a cultivator. Well, I mean, of course, ordinary people too. You can say the ultimate problem is also the ego, but yeah. So that's something that we may have let go of the other types of stubbornness, but we ultimately still need to let go of this ego. Okay. All right. Okay, so people are all for or about me, right? I, this false self, this mine. Okay, so my clothes, my shoes, my wrinkled clothes, my torn shoes, Holy Teacher's broken fan and broken gourd also are not mine, right? He's saying, because they were given to me, right? Do we have our own things, right? What is considered to be ours, right? At this moment, these things belong to us or belong to me, right? So when anyone is eyeing, like maybe they're staring at my stuff and the with some desire or okay, I will not be happy, right? Who makes us unhappy? So everyone responds, ourselves, right? We make ourselves unhappy. Right? So given that it is ourselves, then why do we blame others? Okay, so that that belongs to you, and if people look at it or stare at it, then we're not happy, right? We think, well, everyone's a cultivator. Why do they not know this basic manner, right? Not to stare at things, right? Then a second attachment or stubbornness arises. Not only are we attached to this thing belongs to me, we are also stubborn about you are a cultivator and do not have manners. Okay. So then do we also give rise to a third attachment, right? So as more attachments come and go, we become more and more unhappy. Okay, so who gives rise to these attachments? Again, it's ourselves. Okay, because no one, did someone want us to give rise to these attachments? No. Right, then how can we blame others? We are just getting angry over ourselves. Okay, so cultivation is to cultivate the heart and mind. Cultivate whose heart and mind? Ourselves. Okay, our own heart and mind. Right? We must know and understand this critical point. It turns out to be our own problem all along. So, yeah, so this is really the key point Holy Teacher makes that everything, even though, yeah, we say, oh, someone made me angry, it's actually we're getting angry because of ourselves, really. It's not because of the other person, because of what they did or said, or even the way they look. It's all because of us. We're the ones getting angry after all. I mean, it's not, they didn't, so when we say other people made me angry, that's wrong, actually. We made ourselves angry. Okay, it's because of our views, because of our whatever it is, prejudices, biases, anything, preconceptions, our attachments, our stubbornness, obstinacy, all these things that bring about that anger. Okay, so it's not anyone else. So we really cannot blame anyone for feeling, for being mad or angry, right? So this is very important. So that's why in cultivation it's about self-reflection, right? We have to. I mean, we have to look within, and we have to start, earlier, I guess it was last week, again, saying, finding the blame in ourselves, or finding the fault in ourselves, even when there is no fault. Okay, so we have to really redirect that, I guess, that focus or that intention or whatever back onto ourselves and see what it is that's within us that could be the cause of the problem. Okay. And then if we can do that successfully, then we will never be in a situation where anyone will cause us to be angry or whatever, or so that's then at that point, then we're basically cultivating unconditionally, and it's not subject to any kind of situation or conditions on the outside, right? It's totally up to us. Hey, I can be happy and cultivate regardless of what other people do, say, or whatever, and that is the way it should be. Okay, so that's definitely something that we have to keep in mind all the time and work towards. Strive to be able to do that, achieve that. All right. Okay. 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 So, what is attachment and stubbornness? Right? We think that only I am right, or that I only trust a particular person. Only that person is right. This is all attachment and stubbornness. Black and white. Right? We view things as black and white. White must be good. Black must be evil. Right? Holy Teacher says there is no certainty. It's not definite. It's not absolute. Right? Okay. So let me briefly say, the world that we live in, our existence is within the realm of this yin and yang. Okay. And this yin and yang doesn't mean black and white. Okay. That things are black and white. It means that things are not absolute. Everything is relative. Okay, so and not only that, it's you got the whole spectrum, right, from white to black, right? It's that whole like scale, right? It's not one or the other, all right. So so this is kind of important to understand. We live in this yin and yang. This whole universe, everything, all of this phenomenal existence is based on this principle of, you can say, this relativity or non-absoluteness. And so we have to understand that. So there is no such thing as, oh, I am absolutely right. My point of view is always is the only one that's right, or whatever. Okay, that's absolute, and that cannot be. Right? Like we, in the past, we talked about like principles. The truth can be absolute, right? But that truth is beyond this yin and yang. Okay, it's not within this yin and yang. This duality or the relativity. It's absolute. Okay, but those truths, or you can say the function of that truth. Let's say is the principles. Okay, the principles that we talk about. Those are also, you can say, absolute, but when we apply them, and unfortunately we're applying them within this duality, within this relativity, and therefore when it's applied, it becomes relative. Okay, so it's not absolute. So even if we apply a principle, whatever it is, compassion, filial piety, or any of those things, righteousness, propriety, we apply it, then it's no longer absolute. In other words, it depends on the situation. So that's when it does become conditional, you can say, in a certain sense that it's subject to conditions. Okay, and therefore there is no one way that's absolutely right. So that's why Buddha also has like 84,000 different ways of basically trying to teach the Dharma, if you will, or conveying the truth or the true principles to sentient beings, right? Because everyone's different, right? So you can't always use the same. It's not one size fits all, right? Okay, but anyways, okay, so a holy teacher asks, right? Are you a male? I mean, well, asking the male class member. I mean, it says, in your previous life, you could have been a female. Okay, so are you definitely right? You could be wrong, right? So again, the idea that, yeah, hey, in this life, I am male or female, but doesn't mean I'm always that. I always, when I am, have a existence in a phenomenal existence in this world, that I'm always a male or always a female. It could change. Okay. So there's no certainty, right? Everybody has different views, different ways of thinking, and different standpoints. Is it because everyone's thinking or views and standpoints are different that they cause us to be unhappy? Right? Is it because people are different that they hinder or impede our own cultivation? We are not happy to see people have different thinking and ways of doing things, right? And because of this, we want to forfeit or ruin our path of cultivation, right? To be unhappy because of this? Think about it. Okay, so again, holy teacher, again, the main point again is that, our cultivation apparently is conditioned on how or what other people do or say, or whatever the situation is, and that's not how it should be, and it cannot be that way, right? Because then our cultivation, if it depends on if people are nice to me, then I cultivate. Then if people aren't nice to us, then we're not going to cultivate. Then that kind of defeats the purpose. I mean, then we're not even a cultivator. Okay, so we're just ordinary people, right? So we have to go above and beyond that. That's what the ordinary people are like. We have to go above and beyond that as to be a cultivator. Because the cultivator hopes to achieve what become a Buddha, which a Buddha is above all that, is beyond that. So we have to. If we can't get rid of that, I mean, if we can't overcome that, then I'm afraid we're not going to become a Buddha. We cannot become a Buddha. Okay, so that is something that we definitely have to work on. All right, unconditional. It's like, I don't like this person. So if this person shows up in temple, I see that person. No, I'm not going to the temple. Okay. Then who, in the end, who loses, right? I mean, in the end, we lose because we're not cultivating, okay? And we're letting this thing affect us. Okay, so this is definitely, cannot emphasize this enough, that this is very important. I mean, this is, I think for many people, this is like a big problem, okay? That we take what people do or say just too seriously, and it affects our cultivation. Cultivation is, again, this is, holy teachers said this, and we've talked about it in previous classes. It's our personal business, an individual's business, right? It has nothing to do with anyone else. Whether we're either cultivating or we're not. It has nothing to do with anyone, whether other people are cultivating or not, or how they treat us, all right? Okay, so yeah, holy teacher said, we better think about that. Right? If we expect to succeed in cultivation, then we definitely need to, not fall into that trap of that conditioned response to cultivation. Right? All right, so we want the minority to support and follow the majority. Okay, so this is something that I guess in today's society, right, in a democracy, that's kind of what you have. Right, it's the same in cultivation, right? Even though we all have our own opinions, In the end, we must respect the opinion or the vote of the majority and let go of our ego and stubbornness. Right? We cannot think, oh, why did they not listen to me, but want me to listen to them? Right? In cultivation, we must gradually let go of this mentality. Right? It is the key to rectifying the mind. Right? That is to always think of and have consideration for or be mindful of sentient beings. Right? In order to attain the heavenly or divine heart and mind and achieving selflessness, right? Forgetting the self. Okay, if we can do this, disciples will be happier in cultivating. Therefore, we must be determined to learn this method of change. To be humble to the lowest point is the highest. Right? Where have we heard that? I think is in the Tao Te Ching, right? So as long as disciples are willing and determined to change or adjust their mindset and not be bothered by or care about other people's words, right? So so I mean, to get rid of our ego is basically, as you can say, is like becoming humble, right? We're making ourselves small and humble, and we're lowering, ourselves, and that is, So someone who has ego, they're not humble, but we know that the Tao is to be humble, and so we have to get rid of the ego, right? Because the ego is prevents us from being humble. Okay, so. So again, we always have to be mindful as we always have to support. In the end, it's like, when you have a group of people, you make decisions, right? Obviously, not everyone's going to agree, or they'll have different ideas. But in the end, the majority still rules, and we have to follow the majority rule, the decision. Okay, so once it's over, again, we don't go behind people's backs and start complaining and talking about whatever, the decision is made, that's it, just we move forward. Okay, so otherwise, really, life, cultivation will be very difficult and miserable if if we can't do that. Okay, in other words, once it's done, we let it go. Okay, all right, maybe we can't settle the difference of opinion, that's fine, just let it go, forget about it, just move on. Everyone, I think Holy Teachers also says that, basically what the people, in other words, the general, I guess the majority, what they decide is basically becomes heaven's will. Okay, so then we have to follow that. All right. Now, if we're in society and, the majority of people are doing some going about one way, but we don't necessarily follow. I mean, again, we have to kind of know what's right and wrong. Okay, what's proper, what's not proper. I mean, if what most people think is, oh, it's okay to, you can smoke marijuana, you can do whatever, drink alcohol, get drunk, whatever. We don't have to follow that. Okay, so right. But so again, everything is, we have to use our wisdom. If they're going down the wrong path, then we should, then we have to make a decision whether we follow or not. All right. All right. Okay. Here. Okay, so we only know how to be merciful and kind to ourselves, right? Take care of ourselves and love ourselves, right? Now that we have given it up, right? Assuming we've given that up, Holy Teachers assuming, we should not worry about it anymore. We say, I give it up. I will listen to Holy Teachers' instructions. However, when the time comes to accept an assignment, we are unable to do it. Okay, so I mean, so we all say that the family karma is too heavy, So yeah, I mean, in other words, we're coming up with excuses, saying, oh, I'll listen to Holy Teacher's instructions, but then now Holy Teacher is giving me an assignment, but then I come up with some excuses. Oh, my family, there are a lot of, there's a karma there that it's very heavy. It's hard to free myself from that, right? If we have truly relinquished the heart and mind, then how can there be so many things to argue about or bother with? So we're kind of being kind of hypocritical, if you will, if we haven't really totally relinquished that ego, the heart and mind. Okay, so we just lack the courage and the drive. Even when we want to let it go, we cannot cut it off, and our reasoning is still chaotic. Right, so how can we cultivate to purify and quiet our mind? Okay. So on the stage of life, right, everyone is a small individual. Sometimes we are the protagonist, right, and the main character, and other times we are just a supporting character. Right? Have we seen the Oscars, award ceremony? Right? Sometimes the winner is often there's a supporting actor or actress, and not necessarily the lead actor or actress. Okay, so today we are supporting characters to somebody else. Okay. So if we do even better than the main character, then we have succeeded, right? So just like the green leaves on a plant, right, do not stand out if the plant does not have colorful flowers, right? And the flowers will not show their beauty without the green leaves in contrast. So people must also accommodate and cooperate with each other. We cannot say, oh, I have had this temper since I was a child. Right? So this is my character or personality. Although I know that Tao cultivation is good, but if you ask me to change, I just want you to accommodate me. Okay? So this holy teacher says, this is not cultivation, right? It is also not what the lecturer talks about as natural instinct, right? No, this is called headstrong, or being very willful, okay, or stubborn, right? Then what is natural instinct? It is to follow or obey the conscience in doing things. Right? It takes time to realize what this means. Okay, so so not, we're sometimes we should be in support of others. I mean, it's not like everyone has to listen to me. I'm the boss. I'm the leader. Everyone's got to follow me. A lot of times we actually, a lot of times it's not. It's the other way around. I mean that we have to support others. Okay, so that's also part of being humble, right? And not being stubborn about our views and things like that, right? So we have to learn, right, not to be stubborn and headstrong, right? 任性 in Chinese. We have to learn to be 率性, which is to follow our natural instinct, our Buddha nature, our conscience. Okay, so that is, it's again how we get there. We have to get rid of all those other things. Get rid of the ego, get rid of our biases, prejudices, our attachments. Not let the conditions dictate to us, in terms of how we should be. Okay. All right. Okay, so ordinary people just like to get together and inevitably gossip about others. Okay, so this is an easy way to fall into the trap of becoming a gossiper, okay? Talking about right and wrong or what is or isn't, right? We cannot say, oh, he talked about me first, so I have to talk about him, right? So fighting gossip with gossip, right? So there is no such reasoning in the world. Just like, one hand clapping does not make any sound, right? Right? There's I guess it's like a Zen koan, right? Says, what's the sound of one hand clapping, right? So there's no such thing. Right? So some people are. So let's say you have a person A, okay, who may have some preconceived idea about person B, okay? Now, when person B is talking to others, and person A then assumes that B is talking about or saying bad things about A, okay, slandering them. Now, even if person B is saying some good things and they're, what they're saying is correct, is right, because we have, A has these preconceived ideas or biases, prejudices, right? A is unable to accept that person B, okay? So this is not good, right? Do disciples start to chatter and gossip when we see the faults and shortcomings of others? Right? Do we have too many preconceptions and prejudices? Cultivation is to be honest. When we know there is a mistake, that we correct it. Okay, so only in this way are we accepting the truth or the principles. Right? Cultivation is to recognize and accept the true principles, the truth and the principles, and to practice in earnest. Do not cultivate because we heard and were moved by holy teachers' explanation of the principles. Right? This is not the correct mentality. If holy teacher did not channel and disciples do not see holy teacher, then do we stop cultivating? Okay, so again, it's conditional, right? It's we should not be cultivating conditionally. Just because, we we attend a Dharma class, we see holy teacher gives us guidance, and we can follow that guidance because we heard it directly from holy teacher. So that there's a flaw in that logic. I mean, if holy teacher is not around, then we don't listen to anyone else. No, so we have to kind of go beyond the form, stop being attached to the form or even the messenger in this case, but focus on what's being said. What is it, the true principle, and if it's true principle, then we should listen to it. We should accept it. Okay, so it doesn't matter who delivered it, how it was delivered. None of that should matter. Just get to the essence. In other words, essence of that message. Right? Okay. Okay. So look at the transmitters and lecturers in the front and the staff members in the back. What kind of spirit do they bring to the class? Right? The spirit of sacrifice and dedication. And for what? They have given up their time and love. Disciples should learn from them. Right? When we interact with people, we must broaden our heart and mind and shrink ourselves, our ego a little. Right? Do not make ourselves to be too big. Right? We have to shrink a bit. So make ourselves smaller, right? In terms of the ego, the self. Then we can be in harmony with others. Right? People are social creatures and cannot live completely, in isolation. Right? And especially like in this pandemic, we find that out. I mean, people getting stir crazy when they're stuck at home, they can't go out. So therefore, we must learn how to get along with people, but it requires a non-trivial skill, right? So I mentioned the example before of if we're all like different. Like we're like rocks, okay? We're all like rocks, okay? So you have a whole bunch of rocks together, because we're all interacting with each other, and but these rocks are not smooth. They're not round. They're not like round balls, okay? So they have some sharp corners, edges, whatever, pointy, points, and they're hard. And so when we rub against other rocks, then there's going to be you have some problems, right? But it is during that process, this is, the process of cultivation and refinement, that, yes, we have to kind of wear down those sharp edges and corners so that we do become rounded and smooth, so that when you are round and smooth, then, when it rubs against other round and smooth objects, well, there's no problem. I mean, it's not going to create that much friction, or there's not going to be conflict. Okay, so that's when we can become in harmony with everyone else. But how do we get there? So, I mean, we have to. I mean, unfortunately, you can say that we have these sharp edges and corners and pointy things that we have to and we have to get rid of them. Okay, so and it's hard to do that, or maybe even impossible to do that in isolation. I mean, if we say, oh, okay, I don't want to deal with other people, I'll just cultivate myself and get rid of these. It's almost impossible. I won't say it's impossible, but it's pretty much almost impossible to do that. Okay, especially if it's if we don't have like an infinite amount of time. I mean, if it's just one lifetime, we may not even be able to do that. Okay, so therefore we have to. That's why we're cultivating, not in isolation, but in whatever situation, whatever environment we're in. We're learning to cultivate. And this is kind of like, it's like the double-edged sword. On the one hand, it's difficult because we're faced with all these issues and situations and conditions that make it difficult. Well, again, it's difficult only because of that ego, because of our attachments and stubbornness. Okay, so if we can get rid of that, then it won't be difficult. Okay, but at the same time, okay, so that's one edge. The other edge is that because of this environment that we're cultivating in, it's actually much quicker. We'll get, you can say, quicker results. Okay, in cultivation, right? In the past, when they cultivated almost, for the most part, kind of in isolation, right? They cultivate off in the mountains by themselves, or in a monastery. Okay, so away from the general society, and that's kind of like an isolation, and it takes a lot longer to cultivate. And so today it's kind of because we really don't have that much time, actually. So this is the way we have to cultivate now. It's much quicker, but it can be a little bit harder. Okay. All right. So let's see. Oh, okay. So right. Okay. So because of the cleaning, clinging, attachment and attachments, right? People create all sorts of minds, and it's called stubbornness. Right? Human suffering and joy are created by the mind. And the mind that can create heaven also can create hell. Right? However, our mind turns and changes, it creates a corresponding realm or reality, I guess. When we have entered into such a realm or a reality, then we have to break out of it. Okay, so really everything is created in our own mind. Even the supposed the so-called reality that we are in it's all created in our mind. Okay, and so heaven or hell, it's up to us. How how we want. Do we want to be in heaven, or do we want to be in hell? Yeah, we can be. If we're gonna be angry and conditional, fall into that duality and all that stuff, then we've created a hell for ourselves, and our life will be miserable. But if we choose to kind of go beyond that, to not fall into that duality, then we can create a heaven for us. And so everything is relative. Again, it's relative. So we're all in the same boat, so to speak. But whether one person can be in heaven, the other person can be in hell, right? So it's all up to each of us individually. And so that's the thing. Now, and then this is talking about like right now, but ultimately, what's in our mind also determines our existence. Okay, so that's why there's the 10 realms of existence, right? It's all starting in the mind, and so those are like different. You can say different levels of life or existence. Like reincarnation, right? So therefore, we have to definitely take control of our mind. Okay, our heart and mind. And hopefully we all choose to create heaven for ourselves rather than hell, right? Okay. Okay. Let's see. Oh, sorry. I think I jumped ahead. All right, never mind. Yeah. Okay. So stones are like human attachments and stubbornness, right? Sometimes people scold us saying that we are stubborn like a stone, or a rock. Okay. So although a stone is stubborn, it can be used to pave roads, to decorate, and used wherever it's useful, right? So aren't stones good? Right, this tells disciples to choose what is good and hold fast to it. Okay, so although we generally we shouldn't be stubborn. Okay, we shouldn't have attachments. But when something is, if we're doing the right thing, if we're doing something good, then we don't necessarily have to change that. We shouldn't have to change that. We should stick to it. Okay, so I guess there's like a saying: if it isn't broken, don't fix it. Right. So if it works, then there's nothing. We don't need to change it. I mean, we can try. Maybe we can improve if there's an obvious improvement to be made. But otherwise, just continue with that. Okay. So why are we unhappy? Because we have too much I, right? The ego. Okay, so what word do we use the most every day? Right? It is I, or me, or my, or mine. Right? Even when buying something, we say I want such and such. Right? Everything is about me, my, or mine. Right? Everything is categorized as if it was mine. This is called ego attachment. It is our own obsession or fixation and attachment to the concept of self. Why does he do it like that? Why doesn't he do it a different way? Right? This is the obsession with the concept of I. Okay, so we are unhappy when people do not follow our wishes or ideas. Is this considered cultivation? Right? It seems that cultivation is not like this. Right? It should be without vexation or worries, right? And it should be joyful, open-minded in everything, optimistic and hopeful. Are we like this? Are we optimistic or hopeful or sanguine? Okay, so so we can kind of, I guess, based on what Holy Teacher is saying, kind of gauge, how we cultivated. I mean, if we find ourselves like, wow, cultivation is kind of a drag. It's kind of miserable. Then that means we're not going about it the right way, I guess. So we should be, Holy Teacher saying, we should be, without all these worries, and we should be kind of open-minded, happy, joyful, kind of optimistic, hopeful of things. Okay. So why do sentient beings become sentient beings? Right? It is because they are lost or confused or deluded and have attachments. Right? If we cling to the good and evil, right, the duality, then we create the mind of good and evil, duality. If we cling to me and you, right, subject-object duality, then we create the mind of subject-object duality. Okay, so if we cling to birth and death, then we create the mind of birth and death. Whatever mind we create, we will cling to it, but we will always also have an attachment to the mind of goodness. Okay, so attachment to doing good is not true goodness or kindness. Right? We must live the goodness or kindness in daily life without any attachments and clinging. This is the manifestation of bodhicitta, which is the enlightened mind, which is true goodness. Okay, so so basically, even though so we shouldn't cling to the idea of goodness or good and evil, right? I mean, we have to just live it. We live it, okay, but not be attached to the idea. Oh, it has to be good. It have to do good. Okay, just do it. Just do it. I mean, there's no need to be attached to anything. Just if it's the right thing to do, we do it. Okay, So that is, so holy teacher is saying that, having that attachment, because that's still not the true, that's not the true goodness or kindness. Okay, so we just do it naturally, right? So that's why we say wu wei, that Buddha nature spontaneity, that it just comes out naturally. It's not saying, oh yeah, I have to do good, so I go out and do these good things. Then that's not natural. Okay, so that's holy teacher saying that's also, there's an attachment there. Okay, so we shouldn't be like that, right? Okay. Let's see. I think. Yeah. Okay. So that's kind of basically this section here that's done now. The rest, but this is a very important section talking about ultimately everything depends on the I or the ego, right? So that's why we have to get rid of the four images, right? That includes the ego or the self. Image of others, so that's the subject-object duality, sentient beings, and also you can say personality or the lifespan. Again, that relates to the five skandhas. That's our view of the world, view of ourselves, but that is, it's kind of a false view, okay, or it creates a false view. All right, so okay, so. There's some other material here that goes with this. So it says, talking about the root of suffering, right? So the root of suffering is attachment to greed and desires for the world. Okay, so again, that's part of basically the Buddha's Four Noble Truths. Okay, so act with Buddha nature spontaneity. Okay, yeah, so for a naturally free body and mind. Again, so without attachments, without stubbornness, without any of that, we can just act naturally. You can say it's guided by our conscience, guided by the Buddha nature. Then we are naturally free. Anything that we do we won't have regrets. Okay, we won't have guilt. It'll just be, we did what should have been done. Okay, more desires lead to more vexation or worries. More wants lead to more demands. Okay, so that's generally true. That obviously more desire lead more. I mean, the more things that we want or the more things that we have generally lead to more worries, because we place so much value on those things that we have or that we want, then that creates all that worry and vexation. Okay, so so obviously as we want more, then we start demanding more. Okay, so so that's kind of like greed too. Okay, so unfulfilled demands leads to complaints, right, which lead to vexation, right? So obviously we can't. Sometimes we want stuff, we demand stuff, and we don't get it. Okay, whether it's things that we want, or we expect things of others, we expect people to behave in a certain way. If they don't do it, then it's going to lead to our vexations and complaints. Okay, constantly. Inspect the insatiable, or the heart that cannot be satisfied. Basically, cultivate and be happy even in poverty. Right. So it doesn't matter. I mean, what we have, how much we have, we can still cultivate, right, and we can still be happy. Right. If we don't put too much value or emphasis on those things, those material things. Again, this is where we create our own misery if we keep dwelling on the fact that I only have this little bit. I wish I had more. Why can't I have as much as what the other person has? Then we're just creating that misery for ourselves. It's just forget about that. Just say this is what I have. I mean, this is all I have, and be content, and just make sure that we can cultivate. Okay. All right, so know contentment and joy, right? Pursue wisdom as the important task. So again, we have to be content. when we're content, then we can be joyful or be happy. We have to, use our wisdom, pursue wisdom. So it's not like what society or what we are taught, right? Oh yeah, more money is better, man. You gotta make yourself a fortune. You gotta the American dream, right? All these things you want to have. That's not wisdom. Okay, so we have to use our wisdom, see what's really important. It's not those things. Okay, so that's why we're in class here. We're learning a lot of what the guidance from the Buddhas and saints, teaching us what is really wisdom. Okay, what is really important. Okay, whether cultivating at home or as a monk, right? Be undefiled by the world and be joyful. Yeah, don't be. We cannot be, should not be influenced or perturbed by the world, by the material world, by whatever is out there, because that is going to, that relates to the stuff before here that's caused those problems. Okay, so for cultivation, yeah. Don't worry about what the world has. Don't worry about what other people, what they have or whatever. It doesn't matter. Okay. We're here to cultivate, and we can do it in whatever our situation is. Okay. So not to be defeated by the 5 desires. Naturally living. So natural living then gains stability. Okay. So the 5 desires again are wealth, beauty, name or reputation, food, and sleep. Okay, so we shouldn't go overboard in those things. I mean, yeah, we need a certain amount of money to survive. Okay, to make a living and all that. Don't pursue beauty. Either for ourselves or others. To extremes either, or have name or reputation. Food again. This is something that we shouldn't. I mean, as long as we have getting enough nutrition, the food can be decent. I mean, it doesn't have to be gourmet food all the time, right? Or a lot of food. And sleep again, so this is something that we shouldn't oversleep and, to be too lazy and just sleeping all the time. But okay. All right. So suffering is from me, and with I comes suffering. So that's really the root of suffering. Okay, so it's the desires, right? The desires come from the I. Whoever started the trouble must end it. So there's a saying, right? Who, and so this we say the trouble in this case is the suffering and the vexations, right, and all that stuff, the misery. And who started that, right? It came from me. So we are the ones who started it, so we have to end it. Okay, so again, if we understand the 4 noble truths, that the suffering comes from desires, and that we are the cause of that, then and we know we can end it as well. Okay. So to escape the sea of suffering, we must rely on our own strength. Again, the Buddhas can only guide us. They can only point us in the right direction. Not just the Buddhas, but anyone else, even our holy teacher or our predecessors or senior cultivators. It's the same thing. They can only point us, help us, point us in the right direction. Ultimately, we have to rely on ourselves to transcend the sea of suffering, get out of the sea of suffering. Okay, we need to have that strength, that inner strength. No one can pull us out of the ocean. Okay, we have to kind of get ourselves out. All right, and so we have to have that willpower, that inner strength, and so we have to have that will. We have to have that inner strength to push ourselves. Okay. Now other people can kind of give us a lending hand every now and then, but they can't carry us. All right. So we have to still walk ourselves. All right. No one else can help, but how do we escape? Right. So start with cultivation of the body, mouth, or words and mind and thoughts. Okay, so again, these are just kind of the three aspects of ourselves that we have to cultivate. So that's everything. That includes everything. Okay, so the five skandhas, all right, which the form, sensation, conception, differentiation, intent, cause all thoughts and actions. Right. So it's through this process of interacting with the forms through our senses that this whole sequence of events that in our mind that creates our thoughts and actions. Okay, so this we have to be very careful. We can't get rid of our senses. Okay, but at the point of conception or differentiation or intent, up here we can do something about it. All right, that's something that as part of our cultivation we need to work on as well. Okay, so get rid of our bad habits through cultivation. Right, calm or instill the active heart and mind. Our mind tends to be too overly active. Thinking all the time, thinking about stuff that we shouldn't be thinking about. It's just like earlier, the example of, you see these two people talking and we think that they're talking about us. So that's we shouldn't be thinking that. Why should we be? That's an overactive mind. We should have magnanimity. Right, a big heart, big mind, to forbear and to tolerate, accept adversity, to grow and increase our wisdom. So it's important that we have. If everything was smooth sailing, we would not cultivate as well as if we met adversity every now and then. Okay, I'm not saying that we should be. Cultivating in adversity all the time. That would be kind of difficult. But every now and then, if we meet with adversity, then that helps to increase our wisdom because we learn to deal with it. Okay, if we never have to deal with it, these adverse situations. Will we ever know how to deal with it? I mean, so it's like where's the test? There's no test. So the adversity, when we meet with the adversity, we say, oh yeah, I know all the principles. I in theory, okay, but what about in practice? Do we know how to put them into practice? So that's when the adversity comes in. Then we learn to put that theory, the principles, into practice, right? That's how we can increase our wisdom. Distinguish right from wrong. Okay, so we have to make that. We have to know to be able to distinguish right from wrong. All right, otherwise we're gonna blindly do things, and we could be doing all the wrong things we shouldn't be doing. Right, so it's basically knowing to do right and not wrong, but not judging others right and wrong. Okay, so this is talking about we have to know to do the right things, but it's not judging whether other people are doing it right and wrong. Okay, and anytime, anywhere, no matter what, there is no hindrance. Right, so if we can cultivate well, then it doesn't matter what the conditions are. It won't affect us, right? When we'll still cultivate just as well. Okay, so that's maybe that's at a high level. I mean that advanced level of cultivation that we can to be like that. But that's what we're striving for. Otherwise, things happen, and because we don't live in an ideal world, things happen, and then that could potentially one of these days something happens that then creates a big obstacle for us in our cultivation, and maybe we stop cultivating or whatever. So we hopefully that doesn't happen, but we have to work on that. All right, so always be considerate of others to naturally live happily and beyond the mundane. Okay, so again, it's getting rid of that ego, making this small, and always thinking of others. So being more selfless when we're consideration of others. Then we can be in harmony with everyone too. Okay, and we'll be happy, right? We can live in harmony with all. Okay. Okay, so and then we have we want to be wise. Okay, so says to be oblivious, or you can say ignorant, I guess, is to be gullible. So this is so we have to we again we can't be blind. Okay, we have to know what's good, what's not, etc. Okay, so we have to have that wisdom. So you can say knowledge, but also wisdom, so that we don't fall for whatever whatever people say, we believe it. We can't do that, right? To take vows flippantly or not seriously is to be light on action. So yeah, if we don't take the vows seriously, then we're probably not going to fulfill those vows. Okay, so to belittle the teacher is to disparage the fundamentals, right? To disregard the teachings is to trivialize the root. So it's very important our teacher, the guidance, the teachings are that's very important, and we should not look down upon them. We should not disparage them, belittle, whatever, disregard them. Okay, so it's because the root, the fundamentals, is very important. So it's everything is built on those fundamentals, comes from that root. Okay, so for the wise, to neglect or slight is the root of impediment. Therefore, so if we are wise, we understand that, we know that we cannot neglect or slight or belittle or whatever, like the teachings, okay, the Dharma and the teacher, okay, because that will then, part of that is basically, this is kind of arrogant, okay, this is not being humble, okay, so that will be a big impediment, a big obstacle to our cultivation and succeeding, okay. So the wise enters the way of righteousness, imitating the superior person, establishing the eternal aspiration for immortality in the way of Tao that nourishes the essence. Yeah. So, we always. That's why we learn, like from the Buddhas, the saints, the sages. We kind of follow their way, trying to imitate them, and that is the way to, because they've succeeded. Okay, they've succeeded, and their teachings they left behind guide us towards to also achieve that success. Okay. All right. So, and a wise person so is bright as the sun, having a fearless and selfless mind. Okay. So again, we have to have courage and also be selfless. Wise person is flawless as the moon, having a noble and gentle character. A wise person is vast as the ocean, accommodating a narrow flow with great manner. So just like the ocean, you have all these rivers and other, flows, little flows of water going into the great ocean. Our heart and mind, we should also have a very great, big, heart and mind to be able to accommodate everyone, to accommodate all, let's say all ideas, all other people's ideas and opinions, things like that. Okay, so we should be very accommodating, like the ocean. Even those who are, maybe narrow-minded. Okay, but we still need to be accommodating. Right? Wise person is firm as the mountain, having a spirit of persistent sincerity and stability. So always sincere and stable in how we are, right, in our cultivation. So just like a mountain, okay, and we will never turn back, okay. So we always persistent in that. Observing the current wise person, observing the current situation, true cultivators must be more active and vigorous. Okay, so we especially nowadays, certainly we don't have time to waste. Okay, time doesn't wait for anyone, and if you kind of look around in the world, what's happening in the world, there's a lot of things happening. Things seem to be building up. There's a lot of tension. Things can blow up at any time. We have to be vigorous, active in our cultivation. All right, expecting to be consistent inside and out to undertake the duty to awaken people. Right. So yeah, we have to be consistent, right, in our mind, in our words, and our actions. Okay, so mind, mouth, or body, and mouth, or whatever words, we have to be consistent, and we have this duty to awaken people, to guide people to this path. Okay, inherit the mission of heaven and act according to one's role and position. Okay, so we do have this mission. We are disciples of Holy Teacher, whose mission is to the salvation of the three realms. So we try to save the good people, and according to each of our roles. So we all have a different role or position to play, with self-discipline inside and consummate conduct outside, or consummate, you can say, like, I don't know, it's like a perfect or very satisfactory conduct. On the outside, we become a superior person. Okay, so yeah, so again, on the inside, we have to make sure that we are disciplined, that maybe we can set a high standard for ourselves, but on the outside, we're very harmonious, gentle, all that, and kind of try to be as perfect as possible on the outside. And so then that is what a superior person is, like a sage. Okay, so conclusion of this, these 4 sessions. Okay, so this topic, so it's kind of just briefly summarize. So Tao cultivation keeps us on the path to heaven, right, to transcend life and death. Independent and carefree path of we have to be. We have to be able to stand up for ourselves and cultivate for ourselves, and we can't rely on anyone, really. We have to become self-sufficient or independent, and be, we can be very carefree if we let go, not have these attachments and all those things. A tranquil mind, right, love results in a level path. So obviously our mind, what's in our mind, if we can clear our mind, be very calm, be very quiet in the mind, still, then our cultivation, this path, or even through life, will be more smooth. Okay, so that means getting rid of our ego, right? Not having the 7 emotions, which joy, rage, happiness, sorrow, love, hate, desires. Okay, and the 6 desires and no attachments. Okay, so trying to get rid of these things to make that path smoother. Okay, more level. We ferry sentient beings while cultivating. Okay, so that means we cultivate, kind of basically cultivating internally while we're ferrying sentient beings. But that we also need to cultivate in daily life. Okay, so we have to be consistent no matter where we are. We're always cultivating. So it's not just in a certain situation or in a temple, wherever. We're always the same in our cultivation. Cultivation is a gradual skill, right? And remember that all matters, everything are solvable, right? But we must start by changing ourselves first. Okay, that is a key. We cannot expect other people to change first. That doesn't happen. That doesn't work most of the time. Okay, because everyone has that same view, then no one's going to change. Okay, so nothing. Then the matter isn't going to be resolved. Okay, so we have to make that change ourselves first. That's the only thing we have really control over. Okay, is ourselves. Okay, so that's the first place where we look to change, right? And then finally, we talked about today the misfortune. That's wholly the result of our ego, I, me, my, mine, all that. Okay, so you can say and one way to kind of reduce that ego is we have to listen to others' advice or their suggestions or whatever. Maybe critical of us, but as long as it's not improper or completely wrong or bad, we should listen to it, accept it. Okay. Okay, and finally, there was a song that came with it. Basically, it's a song has a melody of small town story. Okay, it says, "Cultivation has many benefits. Bitterness and joy matures me." Okay, so in cultivation, yeah, I mean, or in life, there's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be difficult times, hardships, but other times they're joys. So ups and downs. But that's what makes us, you can say, makes us better. Okay, if as long as we know how to deal with it, we learn. As long as we learn to be able to deal with the ups and downs, and deal with it in the way that it doesn't cause more ups and downs, right? That smooths, that levels that path. Okay, so again, those are trying to get rid, everything that we've talked about, learning to do, cultivate in that way, then that will, that matures, and that increases our wisdom and makes us better persons, better people, better cultivators. Buddhists have said to eliminate attachments, right? So wisdom shines brightly. Yeah. So we have to get rid of those attachments, our stubbornness, and then our wisdom will naturally be manifest. Okay. It seems as if nothing special, just ordinary. Yeah, actually, cultivation is nothing special. Tao is not special. Is not really. It's not seeking some special power or ability. It's really in everyday life. Okay, so being able to do things the right way, but very normally. Okay, so it's not about trying to use some magic or whatever power to trying to achieve some end. Okay, right. So if we can really cultivate, we will gain experience and insight naturally. Yeah, and that comes from our wisdom, our our increasing, our expanding awareness and wisdom. Okay, but that comes from, again, getting rid of those attachments and stubbornness and ego and all that stuff. Okay, and do things fairly, fair and just, and harmony without creating enmity or not creating enemies, not having creating having people get angry, things like that. Okay, so doing everything fair and just. To always, so getting rid of that self, being selfless. If we can always be in consideration of others, then we can be fair and just. Not have biases, right? Not have prejudices, preconceptions. So to attain the fruit of Tao, right, transformed by pondering sincerely. So we have to, be sincere. That's the genuine, be our genuine self, the genuine true nature, the Buddha nature. We have to really consider all these things in our mind, things that we have to change within ourselves. We have to transform ourselves. And in the end, we can attain the fruit of Tao, attain the Tao, achieve Buddhahood, ultimately. Okay. So, all right. So that's it. Finally, done with this topic. All right. If I had said anything wrong or made mistakes, have not explained things satisfactorily, I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness, and I asked transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.